There was a document produced by them recently which I was a signatory to, which talked about how we need a large scale and ambition for this. They're arguing that we need to do this not by 2050 but by 2030, because if we don't curtail our emissions now, we could be getting into feedback loops that cause problems. So we need to be doing this now. We need a way to finance this, and this document, when it went out, was talking about green infrastructure banks, which we heard a bit about in the budget yesterday, and it was tapping into the pay-as-you-save schemes that are being piloted at the moment. It asked for incentives. We need subsidies, feed-in tariffs, renewable heat incentives. We need the value of property. So that property there, with a SAC of 94, should attract a much higher value than its next door neighbour, which is the same size but has a SAC of around 60. And we need our estate agents to understand the difference and start to value them better. Clearly, we need to tackle fuel poverty. This is something that's continued to rise over the last few years. It's still rising, and we need to deal with that more effectively. Competition is good. It brings prices down, and we need a whole range of providers looking at retrofit, from social entrepreneurs to the large-scale economies, contractors of the world. We need people to feel that the service they're getting is trustworthy. So we need people to be properly trained and accredited, and we need to make sure that we're reaching minimum standards, because we don't want this to backfire, really. And I think we need a strategy for it. And the Existing Homes Alliance is arguing that local authorities are best placed to help deliver this. And the document also went on to talk about the energy efficiency is the first and most important thing we need to be doing, because if we can avoid energy, we avoid all these other things. We avoid the need to import gas. We avoid the need to build expensive power stations. But it gives us money to spend in other areas. It's the best way to tackle fuel poverty. And giving them £100 every winter is not really tackling it effectively. It will bring jobs. Nigel talked about how bringing jobs within the community. It's a win-win situation. An interesting one I saw the other day, not related to that document that went out, but it was that for every pound we spend on energy efficiency, we save half that much in knock-on health effects. So I think it was 2 weeks ago that this document was produced in response not literally in response to that Existing Homes Alliance dollars, but there is a correlation between the two. And Warm Home, Greener Homes sets out the government strategy for doing that, and I'm just going to quickly summarise it now, and I thought it's kind of relevant to what we're talking about. And what that targets is in four or five sections. The first section talks about this being a new era for retrofit, and I think finally it's being taken seriously as a subject. It's asking us to go further when we have been in terms of the simple things to do. Cavity and loft insulation. It's amazing that we still haven't managed to do all of those. There's a lot of reluctance from owner-occupiers just to do it, and I can't really understand why. But it also targets 7 million eco-upgrades by 2020, starting around 2013, learning the skills, gearing up for it around that time, but then sort of steaming into that 12,000 per week kind of target that we need to be doing. And that involves solid wall insulation, and where that's perhaps not practical, district heating schemes, microgeneration, the kind of heat pump sites, which I think Matt's going to talk about a bit more later. And also for social housing, it's introducing the concept of a warm home standard to follow on from the decent home standard. Huge failing of the decent home standard was, of course, that it didn't really address energy efficiency. So now we're going to have to go back and revisit all those properties to put that right. This document very much focuses on local partnerships and delivery, and it sees a strategic role for the local authorities. Following on from the CERT funding that we have now, SEC funding that's kind of starting to roll out. Many boroughs have got low carbon community challenge funding to look at pilot estate projects, and many of them are looking into developing local carbon frameworks to help deliver all of this. And one of the reasons cited in this document actually about why they want local authorities to take the lead on this is because they have good connections with third sector and social entrepreneurial type opportunities. There's an obligation for the utilities to sort of roll out smart meters to make our energy use more efficient and better understood. And there's a lot of support for the sort of district heating schemes being rolled out. Like this is a CHP unit we did on a new build scheme in South London, and it's calling for a national heat map of where's the power stations that are already chucking heat out into the atmosphere can be reused. So that's kind of some good thinking. How can we make investments in greener homes? They're going to tackle again the utilities. So these guys who are already sending out lots of free light bulbs, that's going to be much more focused, and they're going to have to focus on solid wall insulation. So CERT's due to finish in 2012, but something else will come along to make sure that they're investing in that side of things. Pay as you save is being piloted now. I don't know if you know about that, but the idea is there that you can get a loan. The figure that we've talked about now is around £10,000 to carry out retrofits. This is for owner-occupiers mainly. You carry out the retrofits from a private sector loan. It's tied to the property, so if you leave before you've repaid that loan, you don't take it with you, it stays with that property. And the idea is that repayments on the loan are always lower than the savings that you're making in your energy bills, so there's actually no net cost to everybody. And there's incentives for the local authorities to get involved in European regional funding. In terms of the people who have to live in these homes, it wants us to become much more knowledgeable about energy and energy efficiency, initially through web or phone-based guidance, but actually talking about making our EPCs available online and interactive, so that you can play with them and see what measures you can upgrade and how your EPC rating might improve. We're going to need a lot of experts in this. We're going to need home energy advice assessors and experts to visit homes, to talk to people about what they can do. And all of these people need to be accredited. We need installers to be skilled and properly trained in this. We need products that we know are reliable. And we're involved with some work with the Energy Saving Trust to look into how we might do that at the moment. They're also talking about a network of green show homes across the country, and ideally in every local authority. One of those it refers to is the Technology Strategy Board competition called Retrofit for the Future, which is now is funding 86 projects across the UK to kind of look at how different solutions might achieve that 80% figure. I'll talk a bit more about those in a second. It's also referring to the building research establishment's own pilot studies. But finally, here's the other kind of social side of things, the economic benefits. There's going to be a lot of jobs involved in doing this, and not just installing the insulation, but also in advice services, in how we're financing that, project management of it all, as well as the actual physical installers. So big opportunities. They're talking about 65,000. It's probably a lot more than that. And the other tackling the money side of it, clearly a lot of those materials and products that we put into the scheme were quite expensive.